And I believe we're started. Maybe not. What is this going on? Ah, there we are. Looks like we actually started. Boom. Okay, and we've started, I believe, and is there anyone else creeped out by the last fan page? As in, I'm guessing you're talking about the... I'm guessing you're talking about the last regular page of the webcomic. Um, let's turn up this, turn down that. Okay, now we're actually beginning to start. I'm Bar 1 Scorpio, aka Ben Rodriguez, aka Bar 1, aka the artist on the webcomic Peter's the Wolf. If this little video of if this little video of me actually now drawing shouldn't be a big clue. And I should issue the following disclaimer that any opinions over the next hour and a half expressed by me are purely mine alone and not the opinions of White Lightning Productions, which publishes Peter's the Wolf online and in book format, nor Palladium Books, which I do live streaming for. Pretty much after this, I'm probably going to go up online. I'll probably post this to YouTube just to see how that goes over. I have a much unused YouTube channel. Of course, I'm Bar 1 Scorpio on YouTube, Bar 1 Scorpio on DeviantArt, Bar 1 Scorpio on for Affinity. Seems like nobody really wants to take the name Bar 1 Scorpio, so I tend to use that a bit. As for William Snell's question there, if he's talking about the latest regular page, we're back into the story. We're no longer doing the mini chapter on Tamamo no Mae, the famous Japanese kitsune, whose life and death are she was kind of the death knell of the Heian era of Japanese history before they became the Sengoku era, the era of warring states. Of course, now we're just back to the regular, and of course, every time we do these little historical flashbacks, there's tends to be some heavy foreshadowing or some little new information that would not normally be exposited. So we, tell the tale of Robin Hood from the werewolf's perspective. We tell the tale of various werewolf hunters or the like, and we allow that to basically give people a brief look into the rest of the world that isn't directly being acted upon or acting upon Peter and Sarah, our main cast. Of course, all these little mini chapters and the regular chapters being written by Chris Overstreet and usually taken off script by me because I'm a dork. Oh yeah, well, Sarah's father started out well. He's a bit of an odd duck, and odd doesn't say the least of it because he's, like I mentioned in the previous live stream, he's I'm actually trying to draw him to look like H.P. Lovecraft, And that's of course actually one of the ad libs I threw in about him being a Brunonian, of having gone to Brown University, which was H.P. Lovecraft's favorite school. That's where all his letters were sent after his death, and a bunch of his manuscripts. They have this huge H.P. Lovecraft collection. So there's kind of this constant joke about, these little series of in jokes to the mythos and a bunch of other things. In Peter's the Wolf, there's all these little shout outs to different works of fiction, and usually it tends to trend around, I'll do a shout out to whoever I'm reading at the moment. In book 1, chapter 5 lists a place that is next to Fabrics of Reality. Fabrics of Reality is a place where Rebecca Kramer, aka Butch Kramer, works as a seamstress. This little fabric and tailoring shop. There's a place next to there called Piscari's Pizza, which is a shout out to Kim Harrison's The Hollows series. And in a more recent chapter, chapter 3 of book 3, Peter and Sarah go on shopping, and I'm still drawing in backgrounds there because there was a big effort to try and draw these things, but they're coming off the elevators, and the elevators I was drawing, there's these elevators behind them, and the paired elevators behind them are the paired elevators from Are You Being Served? And Mr. Peacock, or Captain Peacock, I mean to say, and Mrs. Slocum, and Mr. Humphreys, played by John Inman, they all make little brief cameo appearances as employees of this place where Peter and Sarah are shopping, because I'm just a big fan of that show from way back when, and I think Chris is actually also a fan of it. As you'll see, I'm flipping through layers here. Typically the easiest thing, I gotta move the shades layer above these dot tone layers. Boom. I'm doing these backgrounds just very quick and dirty. And a few, it's a gradient, I know, it's barely any effort at all on my part. But I'm going to try and I'm almost done on this thing, I think, and I'm going to try and blow through this tonight. And the quicker I can condense I've been way too neglectful in finishing off pages. But it really, and you're going to, man, I'm hemming and hawing and butting and whatnot. But I'm not going to edit this before loading it to YouTube, I think, and this is going to be annoying as hell. It's like, well, and the last time Sarah's dad made an appearance in book 3 chapter, at the beginning of book 3 chapter 3, I think he made an appearance, and he's out of town right now, still worried about his daughter Sarah, who he doesn't know has been turned into a werewolf, and now she's trying to deal with that, and of course the stress of having this very eccentric, weird genius, but obviously a little insane dad, doesn't help her stress levels up, which means that she's more likely to lose control as a werewolf, as it happens in book 2 right now. Is how they're all in this situation right now. But in his previous appearance, he was in office out of town, going on about how he's gonna still work to save his daughter from what he believes is a nefarious conspiracy somehow involving the law enforcement of this town that he lives in, that that he'd moved to work in, and never really knowing actually that things are weirder than he thinks, or he thinks it's all somehow political or weird. sexual, and while they're on, oddly enough, Sarah is involved in the sex life. It's with that boy Peter. And just little touches with him in his current assignment as he's working on the Vannicut Mental Wellness Institute, i.e., the Vannicut Asylum for the mentally, the psychotic, what was it for the mentally insane that appears in the House on Haunted Hill, and he's also working for Brady Shander and Johnson, aka B.S. Johnson, a reference to Discworld, aka, and a reference to Brady Bunch, and a reference to Ghostbusters, and of course that little swing. One of those little ad libs is I put a swing in front of him. That is a little thing in the chapter, in the earlier appearance in chapter 3. He puts this little swing on the desk. He has a little swing on the desk, and you can barely see it. And here, I made sure to point it out that he has this little swing that he, this tabletop swing that he plays with when he's thinking and when he's stressed out or whatever. And that is actually an architect with an obsession with swings is actually a reference to a shout out to. I'd introduced that when I'd listened to the soundtrack to Ragtime. It's and I'm trying right now. I'm just being quiet because I'm trying to recall the name of the actual architect. The song is "Crime of the Century." Evelyn Nesbith, who is is in a when she's a 15-year-old girl, I think, was in a sexual relationship with an architect. Nesbit, sexual relationship with an architect, the architect who had done like the famous Penn Station, Central Station. Or White or something. I'm certain I can Google this in a moment. No, John D. This is actually page 178 of the book 2 that I'm finishing up. So we actually have, so everything looks good when it goes to print. Hey, Kenneth Gunn there too. And you can see how I get distracted mentally. Just wondering if I was once the lady friend of, was it Herbert White or something like that? He's the famous architect, yes, that's right. He put me on a velvet swing and had me wear hardly anything, ruined at the age of 16. Then I married Mr. Stanford, something or other, Stanford something, eccentric millionaire. Oh, hubby's a jealous man. Bang, bang, that was the end of Stan. Oh, Your Honor, I swear, my honey went crazy, I swear. But so, yeah, it's this just little background detail, which is actually a huge in-joke, that somehow swing sets must be the vice of the architect, You can tell an architect is weird if he has a swing set, or, Lord knows you guys have just, like, learned a bizarre, like, you've got to gained a bizarre peephole into what that guy's mind and life must be like that you didn't want. Lord knows that none of you will. None of you. Let's see, ramble while we draw. But yeah, so there's like all sorts of weird little shout outs that are like, if you miss them, and yeah, a chapter ago when when they were in Grace Brothers. Oh, and I think, yeah, and this character right here, who's Noah Dunbar, his name is a historical reference. I believe Chris, I think he said he actually went to Noah, that was the Noah Dunbar High School. Did he go to the high school maybe for the guy? Or, but Chris comes up with all the character names, and usually he does historical references or references to the Nero Wolfe mysteries. Meanwhile, but yeah, Noah mentions, I believe, in book 2, early on in book 2, is that his suit is a Grace Brothers, and that one of his suits is a Grace Brothers suit, and so of course we then draw him in the Grace Brothers. And while we're talking, and while Sarah is going on about she wants to make a bunch of cosplays, she lists off a bunch of references that were like the characters with the file numbers scratched off. Sarah wants to dress as Duty Darrington, of course, obvious reference to author David Weber's Honor Harrington. Duty Darrington, yeah. And there's a picture of a woman in her Phil. In a picture of a woman in a space-age military uniform, and the shoulder patch is actually the Bane Books logo, because I tend to like a lot of the Bane authors, even if they don't really drag home that many Hugos or Nebula awards. Like that matters to the likes of Larry Correia and them. But then I also did and then of course she has another part of the joke is that this Duty Darrington has a dragon pony that's named Luna. I think that I bothered to point out the name of Luna Elizabeth, a reference to Elizabeth Moon, who does science fiction and fantasy stories involving both dragons and ponies. I mean, horses pretty much pop up in anything that Elizabeth Moon writes, even when it's space opera, even when it's science fiction with, FTL travel. But by the point they get to Planet Side, there's going to be a reference to some group of people has decided to put horses on a space colony. The Vada's War, the Serrano Legacy. The first book in the Serrano Legacy, the heroine, who was this ex-Space Force kind of fleet, kind of been forced into an early retirement and is now working as a private captain for an old woman who enjoys horseback riding. So there's FTL travel in a big space opera kind of universe, but there's still a big discussion about horseback riding, and they go on a fox hunt, or a genetically engineered creature that's sort of like a fox hunt, which to me was I was just so immediately charmed by that. And I've got all her books via the graphic audio format that they've put out, all the Vada's War and all the Serrano Legacy. I really enjoyed her writing. Same with E. Knight. Same with they only put out one so far of Alethea Contis, who's another. Sarah then mentions she wants to dress up as Princess Alethea Weekday, or Alethea. I think it's Alethea. She's going to kick my butt because she actually mentions in her videos how to pronounce her names, and I don't really watch her fairy tale rants as often as I should have, but the Woodcutter Sisters series, and all these girls are named after days of the week. The first one, the heroine of Enchanted, is named Sunday Woodcutter, and Alethea Contis herself often dresses up as kind of like princessy outfits when she goes to conventions and library readings and stuff. So, and she's I think she is going to be at Dragon Con if Dragon Con hasn't already happened yet. But I probably missed it, didn't I? But I became a big fan of her first book in the Woodcutter Sister series because that was an audiobook and I was able to access it that way. But the other two books in the series so far haven't had audiobooks put out of them, and which is annoying to me because the first one was great. And these are just a quick listing of some of the ones that I can immediately call to mind. There's a ton of book references and references to other things. A few things that are referenced I have to remove. In one of them, in the next chapter of book 2, Peter's dad is wearing a T-shirt that's the Midnight Riders, from Left 4 Dead 2, which I'm a big fan of the Left 4 Dead series. But I gotta remove that T-shirt. I gotta give them an original T-shirt design because I use their actual logo in the webcomic version. If I'm gonna go to print with the print version, well, damn it, I can't I can't use these things even as a so unfortunately that logo has gotta go. But not only did I like the Left 4 Dead game series, but listening to those songs, the original songs that they came up with for the video game, that's so very much in what Peter's dad would be listening to, that kind of biker rock kind of stuff. That stuff that anybody who works at if you don't work at a auto shop and you just imagine, I wonder what those people, the guys at the auto shop would be listening to. Yeah, that'd be it. Songs about loving them and leaving them, and the open road, and being a biker. There was a while back that we were going on about. We had in the message boards a thread where people were suggesting, and people were asking, and also some were suggesting, various musicians and musical acts that would be the different characters' favorite music styles. And there's always a lot of fun to be had if you ask questions in our specialty threads. We've got some specialty threads on the message board, such as characters. There's a character reactions thread where you can just throw different situations at us, and we'll tell you basically how everybody, or Chris especially, will tell you how everybody would react to a given situation. Just very simple, what if somebody tried to mug them? How would Peter react to a mugging? How would Jean react to a mugging? How would Rebecca react to a mugging? Meanwhile, one of the ones I came up with was the 4 main characters of the cast: Peter, Jean, Sarah, and Rebecca are at a restaurant, and there's some guy who makes have you ever been to a restaurant, a Mick restaurant, and they have the guy going around making balloon animals and stuff. And I asked Chris, okay, what does everybody get as a balloon animal? And he came up with some choice things that would really give you a sight and a little bit of a window into the minds of Jean. And then there's also a what if thread, and one of the things I threw a while back at the what if thread was, hey Chris, come up with a plot, the same characters, the same plot, but instead they're in a situation, and this is where people can say oh, what if they were in an alternate universe or whatever. And so I decided to instead throw out Chris because I'm a big fan of novels set during the War of 18, during the Napoleonic era and the Regency, because they got the Regency era and all that stuff. I said, okay, what if this was during the Regency era? And came up with this really cool scenario about how Peter, Sarah, everything the same would happen, but it'd be very different. It'd be the same characters, but a very different situation, but the same things happening in a way during the War of 1812, of Peter and his dad being Peter getting dragged off with his dad with the militia to Pennsylvania militia to join the defense of Detroit during the War of 1812, and Sarah being the daughter of a guy who's trying to see to the fortifications of the Fort Detroit. And who knows, werewolfing would ensue, but instead there it would be the situation. It would be also kind of like it would be a very different backdrop for them all. And that's what it's kind of fun just to listen to him and just to read him in an evening, like come off with a different plot scenario or whatnot. In just a couple paragraphs, we can get an entirely different adventure, but still have something being very the same. Left 4 Dead movie? I haven't seen one, actually. I didn't know they had done an actual Left 4 Dead movie. Stanford White, that was it. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna. Boom, and she comes up right here. Elizabeth. Okay. If this is the right one. Nope. No, not. Maybe, no. You know what? Probably the easiest one is going to be to the Ragtime Musical. Characters. Evelyn Nesbit, not Elizabeth. Evelyn Nesbit, that's why. The girl in the book. Stanford White, yeah. Okay, so I could recall it from the song. The ones you're talking about in Robotech, the race of female warriors who were somehow kind of cloned, and it was kind of obvious that in the Sentinels they were going to be these stand-ins, or at least to me, the Praxians were going to be the stand-ins for the female Zentradi, essentially, because I believe after that they actually lost the rights to, or I don't think Robotech has the right to use post-Macross, or to actually say the word Zentradi, or at least in the current interpretations. And the reason why I think this is because they never actually say Zentradi by name in Shadow Chronicles. So it's like one of those things, well, we can't use that. That's at least my theory. I don't have any evidence to support this. But yeah, it was during the original run was the last time you ever actually heard Zentradi. So I think in new animated media they're not allowed to say the Z word. But I think that was, yeah, the Praxians with their robotic horses and everything, they're kind of Amazon-y. And I think there was supposed to also be a bit like She-Ra and stuff. I mean, if you notice that in the Sentinels, almost everything was supposed to be an in-joke to science fiction or a reference to to something else that was also going on at the time. The Praxians were like these female Amazonian He-Man, She-Ra kind of stand-ins. You also had, you know, the Care Barons. You also have the, which to me, I liked that. I thought it was pretty damned clever. The only thing that was kind of cute, kind of clever, and kind of made it fun because, I mean, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't get is that, you know, it's still all for kids in a way. And a lot of the people who were getting on about, oh, good, you know, a lot of people that are getting on about that are, you know, get on about the Sentinels are usually, you know, adult fans of the show. And here I can accept, but here I can kind of accept that, you know, okay, yeah, a lot of this stuff is supposed to be very, you know, toy-nomic, you know, kind of just, this was designed to be on syndication and sell stuff to kids. And even still, even if you're not, you know, able to format it like that, doesn't mean those things shouldn't stay, because those, you could do a lot in there to actually do some more subtle, you could do some more subtle, I think, parody of what, you know, kid shows through that. Here I added that to the shades layer instead of the backs layer because I'm a moron. Little thing that I gotta correct now. It looks like we may have some other people joining me to help me get this thing finished out of the way because I've taken so damn long to get any of this done, and it's only taking longer, I think. Well, a couple of months ago, I had a huge slowdown, I think, in productivity on page 177. Embarrassing slowdown, but it's what tends to happen with me. I'll be working up a good head of steam or something, and then just, I don't know, a few crappy days at work or something, and then my day job will derail me utterly. But, you know, we promised to have this out way earlier in the year, but I just did not get it together, unfortunately, because just more and more of life got in the way. And here I've, like, I think last year I really fell into crap because I was, one of the hardest things for me is to give up video gaming and stuff. I've mentioned that before. Because it's such a great stress reliever, even if it ends up, if you really start getting into all your Halo games and whatnot, you know, because I'm a big Halo fan. And then I was, even then when they started the free games, the gold on Xbox 360, it's like, now I'm just downloading the damn things and I'm not playing them. I don't have the money for an Xbox One, and really all the money I put into the Xbox 360, I really can't see that, hey, that thing is still alive for another couple of years anyways. I don't know why I'd be expected to buy the new system. And it looks like Titanfall is as good as it looked, hasn't panned out. I'm not sure though, but it's just, yeah, you have no actual frickin' story mode, which is, for me, as fun as you get the big game, the multiplayer. If a dozen other games are going to be starting to shortly doing the exact same thing, if you don't create one single character to drag me in, I mean, that's kind of why we get it drag, really get involved. Is anybody going to be really, when in another year or so, is anybody going to talk about Titan? What's going to keep people talking about Titanfall? You know, if there's no real story, if there's no real characters that we can say, oh, this, I'm into this. What happened to these people in. Because I'm from a really stickler, I want to play around on these levels separately. And her book bag needs a finish too, as I'm assigning dragging up layers. If you notice, the shading is very different in the early iterations of Peter's the Wolf. Partly because in the earliest years, I didn't even have a Wacom tablet of any kind, so I was doing all the shading was done by me clicking around with the mouse and using the shape tools to make curved parts of shadowed areas and whatnot, or using a thumb click mouse, and instead of using the lasso tool, I'll be literally just doing click, 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 like that with the polygonal lasso. And let's pictures, tools, screen tones, patterns. I believe I'd set out, no, not patterns, textures. And these are this big screen tone thing that I have here, which is a bunch of different textures and dot tones. And screen tones is actually from a screen tone disc put out by Antarctic Press, another company who I've done little freelance stuff. I never really did more for them than the occasional annual. So, yes, anything I say doesn't reflect on them or represent them in any way. another important group of friends that I should probably distance myself from when I talk, because who knows, depending on how I also don't have anything to do with Harmony Gold. Yes, anything I say doesn't reflect on. Who knows, if I ever get on a rant here or something and start shooting off my mouth, as I'm planning to do more and more of these and actually start posting them to YouTube where they're going to be up there permanently. Let's just make sure that it's only my mouth that my foot goes into and not somebody else's. And there's actually her bag, because that was file save. We've done quite a bit of work, so let's flatten all these layers a bit to make it a bit easier to. Another thing I need to edit in is her Highland Turtle t-shirt design. A little punning off of Highland as in Highlander, but also there's a band, I believe it was within the Doghouse, that is Highland Turtles, and Gina's Native American. In fact, that would have been one of the big changes, is Jack Carlin and Gene Goodwin would still be around, but of course, if in the 1812 versions, their backstory would be very different. Because how Jack and Carla would have met, and quite different given the relations between Anglo-Americans and Native Americans at that point, the indigenous tribes. Come on, okay, there we go, it's working now. Scale. Huh? Wait. Shift. Why would that? Oh, we got some weird hiccup going. Oh, that's why. There it is. Scale it down a bit now. Is it multiple layers? Duh. And do a bit of skew. A little. skewing the other way. I didn't have the chance to draw it in, her shirt in the original every time, and I think I really need to start doing this more often now anyways. Just drawing a t-shirt design and then applying it after the fact. A few times you'll actually see the characters wearing official White Lightning Productions t-shirts that you'll find at WLPshirts.com. More often than not, our brands of shirts are all geeky stuff, so the only actual person that would do that would be Sarah herself. She's like the only nerd in the series. Peter's just a bit of a, go with the flow jock kind of, likable jock kind of kid. Jean is goth, perky goth, admittedly, but not like, and very internet trolly. So while she'd like get a lot of the internet trolling stuff, she definitely wouldn't bother with anime or science fiction, not to the degree that Sarah is. And almost everybody else is like from a different generation where they just don't get what the heck Sarah's talking about anyways, or any of the other kids for that matter. No, okay, that's all I need out of that. No, let's not save the changes I made to it. Let me do the eyedropper tool to grab a bit of her t-shirt and okay, there we go. It's too solid of a touch that a bit darker. So I have emerged layers, so the actual t-shirt design is still a separate layer at this point. I'll merge that one down into my shades layer along with this strap, but right now I'm keeping these separate. So I can still play around in shading things like Sarah here and Jean, and the actual shade of Jean's t-shirt. And you know what? I think you will be able to see the t-shirt logo from this angle. So I better make for that. Yeah, it took me a while to actually learn that there's a little gear box that on the it was only until the last session that I did just last Wednesday, after a few months of doing these live streams, so you guys could actually see me and I could have somebody over my shoulder seeing that I am actually doing the work, so I can actually do the work. Then I actually figured out that, oh yeah, there's a little gearbox near the video for the live stream that will allow me to download it, so that I could then, in theory, upload it to YouTube. So that tells you how much I suck at this. But I plan to be doing a lot more. Maybe even try to do these things, these sessions, a bit more in the format of, I don't know, a podcast of some sort. I'm just gonna have to start organizing things to talk about. So we'd have like a scale. First one. And then scale this way a bit. And a touch of perspective maybe. I think we can actually come up. Just skew that way to just mimic it warping a bit around her body as she shifts about. My character's always very noodly, and I get a lot of gesture work, and I think that's what a lot of people, from Kevin Sabeta to my, Christopher Street to my fans notice, and those with a language will tend to say that my work is very gestural. That's definitely a product of my art education, where I did a lot of life drawing. Almost everybody acts like a pro. Almost all my characters, all my actors are pro wrestlers. Everybody's gestures are throwing it out to the back audience. So no matter how small down a drawing gets shrunk, hopefully people can tell what's going on, how a character is feeling. File, save. Been updating this one, so let's dive back in here, see what you guys are chatting about. Oh, where am I? Noah Dunbar. Yeah, I almost am. I think about another night's worth of working on this, and I'll be on to the adults only version of this page, which will mean I'll be doing that as a Picarto and not a live stream, because of course got to go. Any reference to Native Americans is concerned? Whenever there would be a reference to Doctor Who's, I think we've already had Jean turned into a pony, but I don't think we're gonna have much more pony stuff or much more Doctor Who. Yeah, of course, Sarah would be definitely into that. She's prime material for being a Doctor Who fan. And we've done references to other BBC shows during the Robin Hood pages. We had a reference to King Richard the Stig, because both me and Christopher Street, of course, is the one who got me into Top Gear, and very much into that show, and I personally believe I need to use the word pillock more often when talking to people. These are all merged now, so this is kind of annoying, but this is interesting because, of course, you guys can't listen to what I'm listening to unless I start humming along to it, and I'm horribly off tune. Um, but I'm like several episodes into listening to the Renaissance Festival Music podcast at Renaissance, I believe it's still RenaissanceFestivalMusic.com. It's one of those, it's a music podcast I like to check out from Mark Gunn. And now I've got to come up with something that I can draw and color quickly, even for a hentai foundry contest that's pirates, and I love pirate girls, but I'm just trying to think of, oh, what can I do to do a pirate girl subject justice. And I'm like really kicking just really just hating fate the way it is right now, because there's a hentai pirate girls art contest on an art site that I also have a gallery on, and this comes out after the creator of my favorite pirate girl, Jackie Faber, L.A. Meyer, just died. So and I'm the only person, and there's quite a few bits of fan art for Jackie Faber on DeviantArt, including several pieces from me, but thus far I am the only person to do actual fan art of a young adult novel heroine that involves Ahegao, but not actually being an adults only piece. So it's, or specifically Jackie Faber at least. All the other, all the other people doing fan art of Jackie Faber are, a bunch of girls who are like, yeah, this is what we're, and very talented artists drawing like portraits of what they think Jackie looks like, and I'm doing this very round 1/2 looking girl. And they're all concentrating on like what these different costumes and dresses would look like, and I'm like making her out to be like kind of a Haruhi Suzumiya type. Just so bad wrong, because part of that has got to be the audiobook's fault, because just the voice acting of Catherine Gelgren just adds such a layer of cute humor to everything. Chris got in, tried to read one, and the third book he got in with, and he was like, wow, this is kind of like some dark, depressing stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm really much like, the humor to me must have been really, or he thought it was a lot grimmer than I do. But then again, also because I'm listening to the audiobooks while he was reading it, so but I've tried to prompt but I've tried to nudge Chris still into towards actually stocking some of those books. He's stocking a lot of novels now. You might have noticed him carrying at the store the Wild Cards novels when he's at conventions by George R. R. Martin and a bunch of other books that he's into, including some of the Haruhi Suzumiya light novels are on the WOP store. Oh God. And good night, guys. Let's see yeah, everybody. Let's see. What was it? No, what was I gonna? Oh yeah, I was diving into here, going to look for a speed line from the Speed Lines disc by Antarctic Press. I'm not sure if they still sell these things, but boy, these are so handy because I can just go like this, copy. Oh, okay, there it is. Hmm. That one. That is. But this one was a bad choice. That's not enough lines. There's the one I did. No, not enough lines. I probably should change this up. I've watched other movies since Edge of Tomorrow, but I really did love Edge of Tomorrow. This zoom line thing might be enough. What does that one look like? Not enough. too many, but let's see what that looks like. I'm not sure where I grabbed these. Some of these are just... And let's see, does that, what can I do with this? Try to make it fit. Scale, distort. I tend to start actually with the background layers, and then go over those the shade layers. Work my way from furthest back items to the up close items, and honestly, because this, I rarely know when I'm gonna go back and re-edit things. So much of this book has been about me going back and just saying, oh, this looks like crap, this background, this panel looked garbage, and I gotta go, so let's redraw that, or let's during the summer I actually randomly went off for a session of just gathering photographs. Went up to the old alma mater, roamed around, and actually took photos of her stuff to get a better feel for the buildings around there. Since this kind of takes place in a fictionalized version of Ypsilanti, Michigan. Boom. Yeah, I didn't need that one. I don't think I would have wrapped that into a circle around that thing anyways. Close out these, close out these. No longer need that one. I'm not sure if they actually said anything on the pirate contest to know pirates, to know furries or cat girls or not. I'll have to double check those rules. But I think I'm also currently the only, if this goes, if I do enter this, I'll probably be the only person entering this hentai foundry contest with, by once again thinking way too much, because I've already dug out my Osprey reference books for these ships of, the midshipmen, the book The Midshipmen of and Officers of Nelson's Navy, and the HMS Victory versus, was it the Victory versus Redoubtable? Because if anything, I want the people to say when they're masturbating to my porn, well, that is a completely accurate 1810 lieutenants, Royal Navy lieutenants uniform that girl is tearing off that guy or something. Because if I don't get that right, Bernard Cornwell will never forgive me. Who also, hey, Bernard Cornwell, he's another person who I'm big into his books, the Richard Sharp novels, and he's got his Saxon sagas going on now, and I think he's actually doing, he's got another book of that coming out soon. I think it's what's called The Empty Throne or something like that. I am becoming more and more an outcast in my nerdy geek culture, I think. I've got less and less to... I have much less to talk with any of the new otaku at conventions, because I'm not keeping up on so many anime that I am not at all keeping up with and not even caring about. But I am going crazy into different fantasy, not even fantasy novel, but just like historical fiction novels and stuff. kind of weird. I've almost completely shifted fandoms, but there are no historical literature conventions. There's no like. Admittedly, there are like some literary lit fic conventions or something, but it's. I don't think there's anything like. Well, here's a bunch of different fiction novels that are all set during the you know the Hundred Years' War or something, and all the fans of novels, set during the Hundred Years' War or the Viking era. Although I'm certain that if you can do a pirate convention, you could probably do a Viking convention. I've got to. I'm guessing I'm gonna have to talk to Yoma. Oh, there's another company that I do not particularly represent, even though I work for them. That their opinions are different from my own. YomaCon, the original Detroit-based anime convention, Metro Detroit area anime convention, YomaCon, who any opinions I express have nothing to do with. But hey, maybe I could rope Morgan into a Viking convention. But then again, that might end up getting a little politically incorrect. Yeah. Ashley Grieve, the Werefox, she is not exactly pirate material. She is straight up cowgirl, through and through. It's hard to get, and it's hard to get a horse onto one of those wooden boats. This little bit right here, yeah, this would have been a lot harder before I had gotten the Wacom tablet, and even though I'm just still using a bamboo fun, still quite a bit ahead of what I used to dabble and play with. And yet almost everybody and yet I think almost everybody in art right now has doing anything remotely like this has gotten stuff that's light years ahead of what I use. And a lot of these, and nowadays I'm not even going with fake or using the digital screen tones, not because I don't like them anymore. It's just because now it's there's like on the most recent page, I did a bunch of screen tone. I used a bunch of speed lines on the most recent page that were hand drawn. As Sarah's dad, Arthur Hazen, comes up with his latest bad idea. And I went hand drawn once because I was like, while I was drawing it, and while I was drawing, I'm like thinking, well, am I really gonna? That was me dropping a pen, like a schmuck. While I was drawing, I was thinking about, is there really going to be, am I really going to need to, it's going to be one more step that I'd have to do digitally when I wasn't going to plan on adding anything else to the background. I couldn't think of anything else to add to the background and whatnot, so how about we just go with that in raw drawing and actually not have to fidget around digitally later to add things. But I still think the wallpaper behind him, I think I'm going to swipe something from Peter V. Brett, his Warded Man series. Maybe I'll turn some of the wards of his, draw those out, and turn them into a wallpaper print as another visual gag for people who are into completely other different works of pictures, because I like to go for deep references. Obscure, the more obscure and arcane you can, probably something I've gotten from Dennis Miller. Just make the most obscure and arcane references in your comedy that you can as you get on a rant. I'll probably have to think of things to rant about in my private life, or what, because I had kind of a lousy day today at work, but almost I'm so over it right now I don't even mention it. It didn't go too badly, but it was just one of those little things that tends to leave me pissy. What do I want to... Oh, right, that's what I wanted to do. I needed to reopen that pattern. Textures, texture 2 is the texture of her book bag strap. So I'm just like, gotta make sure everything is in here. Boom. Actually, belongs up here above the shades layer. Constant clicking around. No, not save as, just hit save. Think we can I can finish up this panel of Sarah and Jean almost getting in on the Mickey Mouse here action. But no, that was for that happened in book 3, where Sarah starts letting random girls fondle her while she's in werewolf mode. because her wear form has just an indomitable self-confidence. And of course, the rule is if the boobs are over easies, it's not gay to give them squeezies. You know, any girl can come up and no, it's not lesbian at all, not gay at all. If in your boobs are that big and bouncy, go ahead. Everybody knows that. Oh, there's a lot of things I want to draw and add into the books. I don't think we got the time to, unfortunately. A bunch of others I want to get drawn too. I think this Wednesday I'm probably gonna go be a. Not sure how big. I'm probably gonna have a session Wednesday. Definitely gonna have to have a session Thursday. Which is distressing because the movie theater near me has like a horror movie double feature every Thursday. The Imagine Canton. And I'd really like to get up there just one Thursday and get in one of their double features. But then again, I'm going to be taking off probably a lot of time on over the next month, anyways. Because as soon as those haunted attractions get opening up, I'm gonna go on some haunt crawls. And I don't know if anybody uses that term, haunt crawl, but that's when you do to me, this is my term for going out and doing multiple haunted attractions in one night, particularly haunted attractions that are all in one town, all within a few miles of each other, because it takes a while to get through one decently. So you got to drive out of town to some place where there's multiple ones all in a row, like a pub crawl, right? But you're going through different haunted attractions. And I want to do a few of those. And you guys heard me last time waxing poetic about this. But there's so many things being added. Now there's one that, because, they're doing the paintball zombies and stuff. And I want to go up I still want to get up to Flint for St. Lucifer and Exit 13. Because I loved Exit 13 last year, and I've loved St. Lucifer from previous years. And just trying to think of all the other ones I want to do. can see how it's going to look when it's done. Let's hide those layers because I'm still working now. I gotta just work on the shading on all these these panels, but I'm almost done. As you can see, we did quite a bit in just a little bit of time. Added her shirt design, finished up pretty much all the backgrounds, and flattened those to save up a bit of space on the actual file. I flatten these to the shades, the backs, and then layer 1, and then the balloons and text layers, just to try and save up as much file space as I can when we go to print these. Oh crud! Except for Jean's butt here. This will be the last thing I do before shutting down tonight. Yeah, she's very huggy in werewolf mode. Sarah is, that is. Probably because every emotion... Oh, we could probably talk about that. Next episode, let's remind me to get about how huggy she is in werewolf mode. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And I'll hit stop. And thanks, guys, for joining me tonight again for even this this hour-and-a-half session. I've been Ben Rodriguez, aka Bar One Scorpio. Check me out on DeviantArt, Fur Affinity, obviously Hentai Foundry, LiveJournal, etc., etc. And of course at peteristhewolf.com. And good night.